I was saying how plasma is living energy. Now, nobody can deny this. This is scientifically a fact. Okay, everything living has bioplasma in it, basically. Okay, then you have plasma in a star. Both of them are living energy. Okay, we are biological living energy, and it is pure living energy. All right. Now, if our universe looks like this, and it's composed of living energy or living plasma, okay, cells are made of plasma, and this is pure plasma or pure energy. Of course, this is a picture of Ultron, but it's the neurons of the universe. And this right here is the universe, all right, and it's living energy, all right, and it's pure plasma or pure living plasma energy, but it doesn't have a form, and it's trying to take form. So it all turns into this God particle using string theory, which is plasma filaments, microplasma filaments, pulling towards each other to create quarks and protons and neutrons. And all the electrons is the electrostatic energy, the lepton energy that's throughout space. All right, this is the dark matter. So it becomes a giant plasma cell or a God particle, okay? Just like this, but it's a pure energy, not bioenergy, like we are. And it programs how life forms throughout the universe. So how it forms is how life forms. See what I'm saying? It programmed how life is going to form. By doing this, it all comes together, stays soupy, because the electrons aren't going to interact with the protons and neutrons, all right? So it's going to remain soupy. Plasma, basically. Now, all of the string theory pulls it all together into that particle. Now, think of this. We say it's tiny as a dot, all right? That's true compared to the universe, all right? Its size is irrelevant. It could be the size of our local group. This right here could be the size of our local group of galaxies, okay? But comparison to the whole universe, it's just a little bitty dot. And no matter how long it exists, even if it's one split second, or if it's 1,000,000 years, or even 6 days, 6,000 years, 6,000,000 years, then it's still going to last just a split second to the relativity of infinite space with no beginning and no end. It's only a dot. So a quark, which is a micro Big Bang, relates in this way. Even though it's just a split second and it's really tiny, in comparison to the universe, that's the same size as a star on one of our scales. Because relativity doesn't matter because you're comparing it to space. See what I'm saying? That's what physicists are getting confused in. They're trying to quantize space, and you can't do that. And they keep confusing themselves because they're deliberately or not meaning to throw their own math off because they're not considering everything. So it exists, say, 6,000,000 years. It all comes together. It programs life in its pure energy of pure plasma cell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days later, or 6,000,000 years, 4.5 billion years, because I consider maybe that 750 million years is a God's year or day or whatever, the 6 days. In that comparison scale to the universe, it'd be something like 750 million years to try to relate it on our scale, because you have to have that conversion method there in between the relativity. And that's what I was explaining in my cosms video that explains cosms, macrocosms, nutricosms, and microcosms, and how the math and the proton spin crisis relate because we're not measuring those macrofractional charges. There are microfractional charges that we aren't measuring that on our fundamental level, it's going to come up the same, but when you get more finely detailed and say you have a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller measurement and you get way more precise, then those quarks and those protons basically are going to spin at different speeds. And that's why whenever they got this proton spin crisis, because they're not considering those microfractional charges. But they exist, and we don't understand why these speeds are different when they shouldn't be. They should be the same, but they're not. And that's why, is because these micro charges, these fractional spins, and these fractional energy charges. Then everything explodes and gives us what we know in the universe. Now, you have to consider, to understand all this, you have to know that all of this still existed before all this happened. All right? They try to say that none of this existed, nothing existed. But if you erase this screen and nothing is there, you're still going to have the screen. See what I'm saying? So, when they say that nothing existed, they're confusing themselves because empty space still existed. All right, that's nothing. Empty space is nothing. You can't have nothingness in our universe because our universe is everything that exists. And if you have something in this universe, then it exists. And if you erase everything, all the matter, every piece of matter out of this universe, you cannot time it because there's nothing to time. There's no relativity. Okay, that's what another thing that physicists are getting confused with. They're trying to consider that there was no relativity then. Of course, it wasn't, but they're trying to say that nothing was there. But there was a type of relativity. Okay, there was actually a digit there. They're trying to say, oh, there was nothing. Well, there wasn't. Well, there might have been a nothing, but there was still empty space. Okay, space is separate from time and matter. It's only a matter of time. And the reason we say that is because we know that's the truth. And the reason why is that even a saying? It's a saying and we don't even notice it because matter and time are the only things that coincide with each other. Space can be infinitely empty. Literally, it can. It's the possibility, the fact that considering the concept that space can exist without matter in it is completely possible and without time. All right? There's only two things in space, in empty space. Okay? There's potential for occurrence and micropotential. All right? There's only two things that exist, not space-time. There's potential for occurrence and micropotential. Okay? These are the only two things that exist before the Big Bang. And that is how the plasma operates. Those are the two things you have to know to understand the plasma universe. Okay? I've been like a physicist or philosophical physicist since I was a child. I've been doing this since I was literally a child, all this stuff. All right? So I got little sayings or whatever, regardless, like those two. But those two are the only things that really make sense. So after the universe basically creates all of the stuff, then one of these beings in the 9.3 years between then and our formation of our solar system and sun, some being existed, and we and everything else on this planet came from its genes. I mean, it's just a supreme being. It's just an alien being that is supreme to us. This is completely possible. And whether we think we got the evidence or not, I'm sure the government does have something. And if you believe in the Roswell crash and the cover-ups and stuff, then you'll know that this is completely possible or true. And what's ironic is, it seems that a lot of this stuff coincides with Stan Lee's beliefs. Or what Marvel, it seems to me like Marvel, Disney, and George Lucas all try to hint to us. Because all of the stuff, the physics, the science, even the stuff we found in cosmology, all coincide with every bit of this stuff. Those three franchises have seemed to pretty much prove or predict everything that we've found and proved over the years. And I always made this connection. I always thought it was weird how Walt Disney, with the theory of him being in suspended animation. I mean, where'd that come from? You know, that was just weird, you know? And the fact that George Lucas, in a lot of his movies, there was a lot of stuff that we found later on through Hubble and all of our other cosmological technology, you know? And it's kind of weird how the Millennium Falcon looks just like the Baltic Sea anomaly. Almost like he knew that existed before we even found it. I mean, that's just kind of ironic, all right? And those two kind of coincide with stuff. Now, then we have Stan Lee, which always talks about these super beings and planets and aliens that are humans, but they're just supreme to us, you know? And all of the stuff in these Marvel movies that coincide with all of this stuff too. Okay, so I always thought that was weird about those, and then all of a sudden they became the same company. That right there kind of put this stuff into perspective for me. Once I always thought it was weird how I always said this stuff. Like, man, they need to become the same company. They need to buy each other out. I mean, they all need to sell out to one of them because, I mean, hell, they all need to come together. They all talk about all this stuff that matches up with the history and science and all of this stuff, you know? And then a few years ago, they ended up all becoming the same franchise, you know? I used to say this stuff like 10, 15 years ago. And I used to talk about this stuff to my friends. Everybody's like, man, you're crazy. Well, it seems to me like all of my craziness has a lot of good points, you know? So don't let anyone ever tell you you're crazy because it's only you making a point that they don't understand.